Good morning, everyone. I've opted to interview myself rather than being put on the spot by Sandra. And I'm asking myself 3 questions. 1, what motivated me to start the magazine? 2, what have been the most significant changes over the years? And 3, what have I enjoyed most? What motivated me to start the magazine? In 1984, Ben's mother had been living in Micklam for over 20 years and was very active in lots of local activities. And we had been living in West Humble for 15 years. And although I was working full-time in London, I still took part in quite a few local activities. And Ben had been a local councillor and school governor since 1970. So we all had a pretty good idea of what was happening. In fact, we once saw ourselves referred to as local activists. At that time, Ben's ward included not only Micklam and West Humble, but also Box Hill and Headley. And I often read the Headley Parish magazine, which was much more a community magazine. You knew what was going to happen in Headley and what did happen in Headley. And I just wanted to show you what our magazine was at that time. We had, and this came out, this is for Pentecost weeks 9 to 16, so 7 weeks. It came out for the festivals. There was one for Easter, Lent, Advent, etc. And we have the rector's letter. We have an article on worship and mystery, the Christian and changing thought, parish notes, just that. And in the lighter vein, there were jokes. And I think Sandra might like to add these to her repertoire.
Can I have the list?
Yeah. And on the back, there were the parish registers, the services, and the calendar. So and I really felt that this was a missed opportunity. And so in the annual parochial church meeting that spring, I got up at the very end where they say, is there any more business, and expecting nothing. And I made a proposal that we tried to produce a community magazine. If I remember correctly, this was met with a deathly hush. But as I sat down, Harry Soudan, who was sitting next to me, said, I'll do your crossword. And he did for many, many years. And then I've only had 3 crossword compilers. Richard Roberts Miller took over, and then when Richard died very unexpectedly, Andrew took over. Now, I know some people are having problems with his, but do persevere. And so, there were a lot of discussions over the summer, etc. But by the end of September, a group of us met in West Humble Chapel and put together and stapled the first edition of the magazine. And we had, the cover was professionally printed, and I described in the recent magazine what the cover represents. It was designed by Colin Caldwell, who lived in Micklam. He was we would call a commercial artist, but I suppose graphic designer is the term today. And what it does show, Micklam and West Humble, it shows that the church and the chapel, with the 2 villages divided by the railway, the river, and a dual carriageway, and that the common thing within the parish is the church in the 2 villages. And so we had this profession, and inside we had just duplicated pages. These were done at Juniper Hall. They let us use their reprographic room. And so we put this together, and we went on from there. So that's what motivated me to do the magazine. And now, ooh, never mind. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
What have been the significant changes over the years? Well, of course, there's been all the changes in the computer technology and in photography. We started out with just typing. Seda Cole was our typist, and then quite a few months after that, John Bebbington at Juniper Hall got a computer, and he said, this is what you need for the magazine, because you don't have to repeat printing, typing everything every month. You can just do this. And I had very good advice from a work colleague's husband, and I started off with a Sinclair QL. Now, this was a tiny little thing. It had two little tapes. One was the sort of software, and the other was the memory. But it had a proper keyboard. The early Sinclairs just had touchpads. And we went on from there. So the technology has changed, and I don't know how many computers we've got through since then. There was also the addition of advertising. The magazine was initially paid for by donations. It was underwritten by the PCC, and after we sent out this issue, so people knew what they were going to get. We asked for donations, and people were very generous, and our costs were quite minimal. So that kept us going for a couple of years, and then we asked for another donation. But we started having people ask us if they could advertise in the magazine. And for a very long time, I didn't have to solicit ads, they just came. And at times we had a waiting list, because I'm very keen not to fill it with advertising. In 2004, the Bebbingtons retired from Juniper Hall, so we no longer had the facilities to run off the magazine then. And so we decided to have it professionally printed. And this is the October 2004 magazine, and the advertising paid for the printing. So this was the first one, but it was all black and white. And then I had a cold call in 2017 from some printers who offered to give us print the magazine in full color. And I really wanted to be able to do this. And so I pursued this, and it worked out that it was actually going to cost me less than it was than this one. So we went for it. And here is the first copy of the colored magazine, February 2017. So I'll put these on the on the piano. Also on the piano are some old photographs of people who've been involved in the magazine, which you might find interesting to look at. We had the challenge during lockdown. No problem doing the magazine because most of it was digital then, but we did have a bit of a challenge with the deliveries. And I remember at one time, we were trying to be very sensitive about it, but we didn't want to put anyone at risk. But we felt it was important to keep going because a lot of people weren't on computers at that time, and this was their only link with what was happening in the community. So there came a decree from above that even deliveries should not take place. And we were astounded at this. And Ben actually rang the police commissioner for Surrey about this, and he said, "Oh, really? I've just delivered mine." So we had people going out in the depths of night delivering the magazine. And then I think the main changes have been in the way people communicate. At first, we got bits of news on scrappy bits of paper and that sort of thing. Now most things come by email. And because of the way that people are communicating now, I think one of the main changes is the increased importance of the magazine as a record of the social history, because a lot of things are just disappearing into the ether. And finally, what have I enjoyed most? I've enjoyed the challenge of learning new skills. I taught myself the computer. Luckily, I was actually doing computing before Andrew, our son, and he took it on, and now he's far advanced, and he's our computer advisor. And also, I also developed my writing skills. I wasn't very confident in my writing at that time. In fact, I have to confess, I asked Harry Soudan to ghost my first leader. And I've always enjoyed, each magazine is different. It's the challenge of fitting everything in and filling all of the spaces. And so each one is different. If it were the same thing every time, I would have been bored. But apart from the technology and the physical aspects of producing the magazine, by far the most important thing and most enjoyable thing was working with people and getting to know them. And I feel very honored to have been the official village busybody. So it has been very satisfying to find that the magazine is so valued, and there's a very able team that's going to be able to carry on. Now, I set aside for the aim of the magazine was to unite the community. And I think seeing all of you here today, it shows that it's achieving that, and long may it last. Thank you.
So we as a church have been so grateful for all that you've done. And I know you've had, the celebrations in the village hall, and that was fantastic. But this is a gift from the church to you with our heartfelt thanks and appreciation. So thank you so much. And that was a lovely sharing. Thank you.